Hey everybody, this is Nick Baldwin, and today I'm being joined by Jasmine Jasudavicius, who picked up a big win in her UFC debut at UFC 270 last weekend, defeating Kay Hansen by unanimous decision in Anaheim, California. Jasmine, how are you?
I'm doing super well. Yeah, how about you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for taking the time, and congratulations again on the big win. 6 days later, 1-0 in the UFC. How does that feel?
It feels amazing, like I've finally been able to get home and spend some time with my family and friends. I really neglected them during camp and especially over Christmas and all that. And so I'm just happy to be able to spend some time with them now.
I can imagine. What have they said to you? What do they think? I mean, obviously they're proud and they're thrilled, I'm sure, but yeah, what sort of been the reaction back home?
They're so happy for me that I'm getting to, oh, when's the next one, when's the next one, but yeah, they're everyone is so happy and so supportive. It's crazy.
Yeah. And during COVID, obviously there's been so many smaller Apex shows, and you know what that was like being on the Contender Series last summer. But this was an arena show. It was one of the pay-per-views in Anaheim Honda Center. What was that like, being able to fight in front of a big crowd, knowing that that just doesn't happen these days that often?
It was amazing. You always like imagine and visualize your UFC debut, and this was like better than I could have actually imagined. It was amazing. Like having the crowd be there. I was the first fight. Normally, the crowd's not huge for the first fight or the first couple fights. But I think because nothing's been going on, people were excited and got there early. Like or maybe because my opponent was hometown. But either way, the crowd was pretty big for the first fight.
Did you feel a difference, like if we're comparing the Contender Series fight to this one, just in terms of like getting pumped up because of the crowd, or like did it make a difference having a lot of fans in there?
Yeah, it definitely made a difference. I love a crowd. I love like I don't know, I feed off their energy or something. I don't know what it is, but I love having a crowd. I think I perform better with a crowd. And I don't like when you can like hear everything. I like when you can hear the crowd roaring so much more.
Yeah. How did you feel going into the fight? Like in the locker room, backstage, sort of as you're preparing to walk out, like were you really nervous? Did you sort of feel those octagon jitters people talk about, or not so much? How did you feel?
It's kind of a bit of a roller coaster. So, like during fight week, I would feel it and kind of like, accept it and keep moving forward. By the time it was fight night, like of course, yes, I'm nervous, but I've kind of like come to terms with it. I understand that nerves are part of the process, and like once I feel them, just kind of like think through them. Why am I nervous? Blah blah blah, and then you know it passes relatively quick once you kind of realize and come to terms with like everything that's about to happen.
So then, as you're walking out, what's going through your mind?
When I was walking out, I thought I was gonna be far more nervous, and then I saw the crowd, and we're like fist pumping and high fiving, and I was getting jacked up. There was like a point where you can see if you're watching the fight that I like stop hitting everyone's hand. I'm like I do one of these, and then that's me like switching the flip or flipping the switch, and getting into fight mode.
I imagine you've watched the fight back.
Yeah, yeah, I watched it like the day after I watched it.
Is it one of those things where like you can't stop watching it just because it's so awesome, or have you just seen it once or twice?
No, I haven't watched it too much.
Okay.
I watched it a little bit. I watched it with one of my coaches just to like nitpick on what we're gonna do moving forward, but I haven't watched it too much.
Okay. Do you feel like Contender Series sort of prepared you for the big stage? Like often, fighters that are making their UFC debut, it's a big jump from like a local promotion. But Contender Series, because it's all sort of the same umbrella, same brand, like you're kind of doing the same things. Do you think that prepared you for this past weekend's debut?
Yeah, I definitely think that it helped me. Like fighting Contender Series, having all the cameras in your face, the pressure that you have to finish, and there's a lot that you overcome fighting through Contender Series, and I'm so thankful that I had that experience, because I feel like it made this fight, my actual debut. It made it feel far more comfortable. It didn't feel like a debut. Like Contender Series felt like more of a debut for me.
And as far as that, how the actual fight played out, kind of a bit of everywhere. Like you were getting the takedowns, but then you were also sort of just out striking her on the feet. How did you feel in there, just in terms of how it was going? And it seemed like you looked comfortable, and you looked like you were pretty confident that you were just beating her everywhere.
No, I felt pretty good. The whole time going through this camp, our, like, I don't know, mantra or our reminder, whatever it may be, from my coaches for me was no shortcuts. So for us, that meant like having a good stance and having a good guard when you're striking, and then on the grappling side, it was like, don't overextend and get swept, or don't go for high risk submissions or anything like that. So it's like, play it very, very smart. So that's kind of what we worked throughout camp, like weighing out risk versus reward and erring on the side of caution. And so I'm very happy with my debut, because I think I executed that game plan well, and like that's what we did for camp. And so I'm very happy about that. But like, I love fighting, so it was hard. I wanted to get into a brawl so bad, but Nick, I had to get this one done with, out of the way, keep it clean, and now we can get a little crazier.
Is that just because like you feel like you got the first one down, like you're 1-0, good start, and now you can maybe take some
Yeah,
more
open up
risks?
a bit
Yeah,
more.
okay.
Yeah.
Anything surprise you about Kay and what she did, maybe what she didn't do?
Not really. I didn't make any heavy expectations before this fight, just because she took a year off. Like, you can be a completely, completely different fighter by just working for a year. So I was just like, when I was in camp, I was just training for anything. Doesn't matter what she had to offer. It's like, I'm not gonna be surprised by any situation.
Is there any advice you would have for someone like Kay? And I just asked because she's like so young. She's 22. Obviously, that's quite young to be a UFC fighter. Anything you would say to her as she deals with a couple losses now in a row?
She's tough. She's got a lot of experience. Like, I feel like, she'll be able to figure it out. I don't know. I don't really have any words for her, but like, I know she'll do well. She'll bounce back. She's smart.
Yeah. One of the sort of kind of something on social media that people were kind of getting a kick out of after the fight was that a long time ago, I don't know exactly when, but your friend made like a tattoo bet with you about whether you would ever make it to the UFC. Has the friend gotten the tattoo yet? I gotta know.
No, she hasn't gotten it yet, but we're actually meeting up this afternoon and like talking about it. Like, okay, how big is it gonna be? How, like, is it gonna be cartoon? Is it gonna be real life? Like, what's the plan, and where are we getting it done? Like, we're planning it all today, actually.
Was the bet like? Did it specify where the tattoo had to go,
Yeah,
or
it's on her ass.
okay, that's even worse than just the tattoo overall. I would think.
Seriously.
What did your friend? Is this like I imagine this is a pretty close friend.
Yeah, she's my best friend. So we were at UFC Ottawa like a couple years ago. I just started training at the time, and we were sitting there, had a couple pops, and I like was like kind of like looking around, all the lights were going, and I'm just like, I think I'm gonna make a run at this. And she's like dying laughing. No way. She's like, you make the UFC, I'll get your face tattooed on my ass. And we just kind of kept going with it, and it kind of took a life on its own, and now she's accepted that she's gonna have to have my face on her ass.
So just to clarify, that was the second last Ottawa card, right? Not like 2019. That was the Wonder Boy Roy McDonald card, I think, right?
uh
2016, I believe.
Yeah,
That's
the one Sago fought on, I forget.
okay. I think it was that one. It wasn't because the last Ottawa card was it was Cerrone and Aya Quinta. That was only 3 years ago though.
Yeah, it must have been more than
Yeah.
that. It would have been the one prior, yeah.
So this friend, how did she react to your win? Obviously she's thrilled, but like is part of her like, damn, I gotta get this tattoo now.
Yeah, it's bittersweet for her. You know, she's happy that I won, but at the same time, she's like, "Why'd I make that bet?"
Yeah, so when that's happening, like you obviously got into the sport and training in combat sports or overall later than I think most fighters do. Did you think you could do it? Like when you got into it, when you first started training, like what were your actual expectations for how far you wanted to take this or how far you could take this?
You know, it was like I had the dream of fighting in the UFC, but that was like the major goal. And then all the little goals in between were the ones that I'm working towards. So, like, first it was take an amateur fight, and then, take another, take a couple more amateur fights, and then we'll fight for an amateur title. And then, okay, now the next big one is going pro. So I just had all these little goals that I was chasing, but it was like not until like around like Contender Series that I was like, okay, I'm ready for the UFC. I think I've done all the work, and so yes and no. There was like I had it, but there wasn't quite belief yet.
Hmm. And why start doing it? Like again, it's not. I mean, it's not typical for someone, say in their later 20s or mid 20s, to just all of a sudden say because often UFC fighters are training when they're like 5 years old. They get into like karate or something like that. Why did you end up going down that path?
I just tried it and I fell in love with it. I thought it was like the best thing in the world, and yeah, it kind of found me as opposed to me finding it. I was watching like Jason Tago, former UFC fighter Jason Tago. I was watching him prepare for camp or prepare for a fight in camp, and yeah, I just like I saw his life and how all these techniques, and I fell in love with it.
Like as you were starting to train, are you worried about like, hey, I'm just at that age where I'm not going to grow into a UFC caliber fighter. Like, were you having those concerns at all, or were you always kind of confident? Like, hey, did you get to a point where you're like, I can actually do this?
Yeah, initially, yeah, I didn't know kind of where I would stand, how I would do or anything, but I found that traveling really helped for me. So I like would go to Syndicate or Alpha Male or Thailand or something, and see that I can hang with these girls that are very accomplished, and so that's kind of what gave me the most confidence and you know motivation to keep chasing the dream.
Growing up, like throughout school, were you into sports? Were you into athletics at all?
Yeah, I was super into sports. Like I always played sports. Like I was like one of the kids that always, playing soccer, basketball, volleyball, like whatever sport the school was doing at that particular time, I did it. My least favorite was gymnastics, but that was just because of the outfits. But yeah, like I think I got athlete of the year in like high school and grade school and all that. I was always scrappy and always running around. But yeah, I just found martial arts later in life.
So it's not like transitioning to martial arts was like completely out of your comfort zone.
No, no, not completely different, but
Yeah.
just a bit.
Yeah. Canadian MMA right now, sort of in the UFC, there's not a ton of Canadian fighters in the UFC. Do you feel like you can kind of be that new face, new representative? Is that something that you sort of are striving for?
Yeah, I've always said I want to be the female GSP. Like I wanna be a household name in Canada. I want to represent Canada well, and the support from everyone has been amazing. Like so many people messaged me and just said like, "Hey, nice to see a Canadian in there." Like that drives me. That I love that so much.
Yeah. Any idea when you might want to get back in there? Like in an ideal world, how many months from now? How many fights in 2022? What do you sort of see in store for yourself?
I want to stay active. So for maybe I've fought early, so maybe even 5 fights if I take some short notice or something like that. But nothing's booked up yet. But yeah, I'm talking to my team, and we're figuring it out and seeing what's next for us.
Awesome, Jasmine. Thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it. And congratulations again on the big win over the weekend.
Thank you so much.